Hey, what's going on? I'm hanging out with my friend Chris Hagen, and he's always traveling with some interesting animals. So I thought it'd be really cool to talk with him about this species. This is Heosemys spinosa, or the spiny hill, the
spiny hill turtle, yep. The cogwheel turtle they call him.
Unreal, man. This is a rare treat for me to see this animal. You don't see a lot of these guys in captive collections. Look at this. So it's Heosemys. It has a very similar plastron to the grandis, which I have in great number here. Thanks to you, by the way. So this guy right here, where can they be found?
They are in tropical Southeast Asia, particularly peninsular Malaysia, Borneo, Sumatra, Thailand. That's our primary geographic range.
Okay, and how old is this particular specimen?
This one is about 2 to 3 months old now.
No way, really? And these are some of your own private animals that you've produced.
Yeah.
How long have you had the adults?
I raised them from 4-inch imports that someone gave me in 2003.
No way.
So I raised them up, and by the time they're about 10 or 11, they started laying eggs. And now they become fairly prolific. The group, it's 3 females and a male, and they produce lots of eggs and lots of young.
Now, you would see a lot of these in years past. You know what would be fun? Let's bring this guy over and just get some shots of him in our aquascape pond. And I just thought it'd be fun during your travels to see an animal like this in a really cool habitat. But you can see these guys are more of a shallow water species, right? They're not going to be aggressive swimmers, and I'm going to make sure we don't let them go over the falls over here. But what these guys usually like are little pools, right?
Well, they are a stream, a shallow stream-dwelling turtle, forested streams, but they are fairly aquatic, or mostly aquatic when they are young. They spend a lot of time in the water until they get older, and their morphology completely changes. All the spikes smooth out, all those serrated marginals become smooth, they become higher domed, and almost like a swamp tortoise, so to speak. They have very well developed forelimbs for climbing, and they become more terrestrial to swampy, swampland kind of peat swamp areas is where they live.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And of course, these little spines that you see on the marginals, you were mentioning they wear off, but obviously those are protection, right?
Yeah, that's what you would think. If something, if a predator were to mouth that, it would pierce their skin.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. This is so awesome that we have one of these little guys here, you know, in the pond. It's just such a treat. Whenever you stop by, you always have some really cool turtles that you're bringing around. And how long have you been involved, you know, raising turtles? You really produce a lot of cool stuff on your own.
Yeah, and since I was a kid, I've been keeping turtles since I was a youngster. So I'm 40 years of keeping turtles, breeding them for probably more like 35 years, a few different species, and of course now it's become a little out of control sometimes.
Yeah, of course. And you know, you also work for the Turtle Survival Alliance, and you've been working with them for how long now?
I've been an employee for almost 10 years, and I've been with the organization since the beginning as a member and a volunteer.
And that started in 2001?
That's right.
That's very cool, with a big confiscation of animals out of Miami, I believe.
Yeah, out of Hong Kong, and they came to Miami.
They came to Miami.
Yeah, they were all triaged to Al Weinberg's place.
That's right. I remember that. Now, was this one of the species that was in that early confiscation, or not?
There were some. I believe, yes, there were some in that confiscation.
Yeah, this is a cool shot. I mean, this looks almost like you would find this animal in Southeast Asia in a pretty much a typical habitat. Nice, cool stream, clear water. Awesome animal, and good climbers. Now, I've got some Heosemys grandis juveniles around the same size in here. I wish I found one earlier, but it would have been cool to kind of have a side-by-side comparison. But if you guys just look back at some older videos, you'll see how much they do in fact look alike. Now, this is a species that was once imported here to the United States. But this was not an easy species, if imported, to raise up, right?
Correct. There was a lot of mortality with a lot of imported animals. But they do, once they're acclimated, they're pretty hardy, like a lot of other turtles. And it just depends. I think a lot of those species that were imported a lot, that there were higher mortalities with, those animals are just more susceptible to different pathogens and stress conditions. And when they're sitting in markets or being collected and sitting somewhere for months on end, before they get to you, they have a much higher likelihood of dying. If they get to you pretty quickly without being exposed to lots of stress factors and starvation and dehydration and other species pathogens that they're not used to, you have a much higher likelihood of that animal surviving. Usually. I think that's typical.
And you know what, guys? That's exactly why the TSA was created. It's a collaboration between zoo professionals, conservation biologists, zoologists, and private keepers, which is how I got involved. Chris is a biologist, works for them, but he's also a guy that's always raised turtles, and so he has his own private collection on his own property, and these animals are his, and it's really cool that he's able to reproduce them, because by reproducing these animals in captivity, we are lessening the stress on these animals in the pet trade for people collecting wild-caught animals.
That's what we hope, anyway. This used to be a commonly imported species, wild-caught animals, and there's still a few that trickle in now and then because they're CITES too, and so people do get permits to bring them in occasionally still, but the more you can produce in captivity and offer those animals, then the less of a demand for the wild-caught ones.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, guys. I just wanted to do a quick video with my buddy Chris Hagen. Really good that he showed up, and I thank him for getting this animal out and about, because they got a long ride home back to South Carolina.
Yeah.
But there you go, man. Spiny hill turtle, or the cogwheel turtle. Look at that guy. You'll never see anything as cool like that. Well, maybe that's not true. There's probably another 200 or so species that are pretty darn cool, but this one you don't see often. All right, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and head on over to patreon.com to check out more exclusive content. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.